Hey there, Pod Pals. Are you a print-on-demand creator looking to stay ahead of the curve? You want to know exactly when to launch your designs for every key season and event? How about a chuckle with an extra dad joke to brighten your day? If you said yes to any of these, then it's time to join the Print on Demand Cast VIP list. As a VIP, you'll get our free annual design calendar, an amazing guide to help you time your creations perfectly throughout the year. And of course, we'll include a bonus dad joke each week as well. Signing up couldn't be easier. Just visit printondemandcast.com/VIP and enter your email. Don't let another day of potential pass you by. Become a part of the VIP list, grab your annual design calendar, and let's dive into a year of inspired creating together. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. This week, we're answering your questions. That's right. We're giving you the keys to this episode in our latest mailbag segment. So let's get into it.
If you're looking for a podcast that's fun, the Print on Demand Cast is second to none. Grab a Central style and keep it real. Dishing out advice with a comic appeal. The Print on Demand Cast, it's the best of the best. Covering all things print on demand. You won't be stressed. Weekly dad jokes to make you groan. But you'll keep coming back. It's a hit you've been shown.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Print on Demand Cast. It is great to have you all with us. And thanks again to Suno.com for the incredible intro. It's our new house band that we have yet to actually give a name, but it was very, very good. So welcome to the episode. With me, as always, is Travis Ross from Make Your Mark Design. And this week, Travis, as we mentioned, we're going to get into a mailbag segment. And we haven't done a mailbag episode in quite some time, but I think we kind of have noticed an accumulation of some questions, whether it's in the Facebook group or Instagram DMs. And we thought, hey, let's answer these on air because maybe there are questions for people listening that might not be in our Facebook group, which is a mistake. You should be. printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you can go to join that group, or maybe aren't on Instagram and obviously don't have access to our DMs and don't know what those conversations look like. So we thought, let's answer them in a public forum. So that's going to be this week's main event. But before we get there, Travis, we're coming off of Memorial Day weekend. I know you and your fam went to Colorado Springs for the day. So how was the weekend? How was your Memorial Day? How was all of the festivities?
Yeah, we didn't do a whole lot like festivities wise, but we did go down to Colorado Springs. My daughter's down there in college at University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and she had to work last night. So we said, we'll come to you. And so we hung out down there, hiked Mount Cutler, which we've done a bunch of times. It was always when we lived down there, it was always the little small mountain that we would always invite people to come hike if they were like from out of town, because it gives so much like Colorado feels, but it's really easy. So we've done it a ton, but it was fun with the kids, every several years, coming back there and they get to climb it again and kind of relive some of their childhood because we did it so many times. Nice. It was a nice afternoon. We dropped Trinity off at her work and then went out to eat and then drove home and, got home like at 8:00. So it wasn't a late night. It wasn't too strenuous, but it was a lot of fun. What'd you do for Memorial Day?
Yeah. So we, what did I do? I had, played some pickleball in the morning for a couple of hours and then went over to Megan and Jason's house for kind of a grill out. Josh and Carly joined us and Jason made some like homemade naan bread on the flat top grill. And then we had a bunch of meat and toppings. We kind of like made pita taco hybrids, I guess. Cool. But they were delicious. So good. We're going to do it again for the 4th, but do like cheeseburger filling instead of like tacos and give that a whirl. But yeah, it was a good night. Like I said, Josh and Carly were with us. Will LaMonica, who actually has been on this show, was with us. So it was a good time and had a lot of fun, got a lot of sun, and just enjoyed the day. So
cool.
Overall, very good. So let's move things along. Again, we have a mailbag segment to get to with all the burning questions. But before we get to that, we are going to go to this week's weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
You know, Travis, if sweet dreams are made of cheese, then who am I to disagree? Had to let that one sit. It's a little cheesy, but
ooh,
a twofer.
Cheesy.
Another one, all for you guys. So yeah, feel free as always, use that around your water coolers and let us know, or in Travis's case, poker night tomorrow night. And let us know of the groans that you get when you debut that joke to all of your friends. And we're going to keep things moving right along because this week, again, we have something that we wanted to highlight. This always doesn't happen in every episode, but this is something that we've actually been sitting on for a while and finally now kind of plugged it into this episode to bring it to you for this week's Point of Interest.
Well, howdy, partner. Welcome to the Point of Interest part of the POD cast. So grab your hat and hold on tight because we got some learning to do.
All right. So, Travis, let us know what is happening in the world of print on demand that bears some attention.
Yeah, it's not just the world of print on demand, but May 2nd, it looks like there was a press release that said the following, and you may already have heard this, but Shutterstock enters into definitive agreement to acquire Envato, which Envato, if you don't know, has Envato elements where you can download, you can subscribe to it and then you can download all kinds of different things. It's, almost like a Shutterstock in a way, but they also have audio clips and different things like that. But back probably 4 or 5 years ago, Envato actually acquired Placeit.net.
Mm-hmm.
So
that all the time.
We talk about Placeit all the time. It's a great mock-up generator for you to use in your print-on-demand listings. And so now it looks like Shutterstock is going to own Envato and by default Placeit, because it looks like it's a whole big, it's a big acquisition, $245 million that will be paid out at closing for Envato, which is, hey, that's a pretty good Thursday or whatever day it is. But there's a lot of cool things we can kind of go through. We'll put this link in the show notes, but let's bullet point a few facts about Shutterstock and Envato, Josiah.
Yeah, let's look at this here. So some strategic highlights, I guess, when you look at, the merger or the buyout. I guess it's not maybe a merger, but it's going to expand Shutterstock's reach with a faster growing audience like freelancers, hobbyists. I guess it adds like 650,000 subscribers, which is crazy. That's doubling Shutterstock's subscriber base to about 1.15 million, which is insane. And Shutterstock is going to have an increased content revenue from video, audio, graphics, fonts, templates. It makes a ton of sense, I guess, from a business standpoint to get this going. Travis, what else are we looking at in terms of, some highlights of what's happening in this merger or buyout?
Yeah, it looks like here Envato, when Envato adds or comes over to Shutterstock, it's going to increase Shutterstock by 10 million images, 6 million videos, 1 million audio clips, 500,000 templates, and 200,000 graphics and fonts, all from Envato. So it's going to not only increase their image collection, but also like videos, like I said, audio clips, all of that other stuff. So they even have like PowerPoint slides, Keynote, WordPress stuff, like they have Theme Forest, I think is one of theirs. And there's another one that they do WordPress templates. And then of course, print on demand is another, thing that Shutterstock's not necessarily a part of, but now with Placeit, they're going to have their hand in that. So the I mean, there's a lot of other things that are, happening as a result of this. Unfortunately, we don't know like when the day is going to be where the sale is going to take place. And we have no idea what it's going to do. It's probably ultimately going to increase fees because usually when things get acquired, fees go up.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll grandfather you in for maybe the rest of your subscription, but then when you reapply or what, who knows what Shutterstock is actually going to do if you are subscribed to Place It or Envato Elements or any of these other, Envato subscription-based services that they have, because they have several. So if you're subscribed to any of those, just, I guess, keep your ear to the ground and see what happens over the next weeks and months. I would doubt anything's going to happen for the next year-ish.
Yeah,
as
it
far
looks
as,
like
pricing, but I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like in the highlights here, an expected transaction closing in the third quarter, subject to closing conditions. So we could be looking at Q3 right before Q4, and making that kind of buyout complete, which will be interesting. We'll definitely keep you guys updated if we hear of anything or when it goes through. Maybe we can preview what the difference is, what it looks like, what now Shutterstock has to offer. Once that's completed, just in time for Q4 for you to use it to your heart's delight, to market or make mock-ups or whatever it is that you're going to be able to do here. But I think it's going to be the functionality is going to be awesome. And again, kudos to Shutterstock because it's a brilliant move for sure.
Yeah. That's really, you're right. I think it's a really brilliant move. And for Envato, I mean, in this little thing that we will send in the show notes, the link that it says they began with humble beginnings in a Sydney, Australia garage. And since then, Envato's generated $1.3 billion in earnings.
Oh my goodness.
And like we said earlier, 650,000 subscribers. So, that's going to be a good payday for them for sure.
Oh yeah. That's incredible. So be sure to look at the show notes as well. And it will also be, we'll also send it out in this week's newsletter. That you can also sign up for, printondemancast.com/VIP. You can sign up to get that weekly newsletter, and that will also be in there. If you don't want to scroll through the show notes or whatever, just have it come directly to you. You can do that as well. So we're going to move on to the main event this week. As we mentioned before, answering your questions, giving you guys the keys to the show, and kind of deciding the content that we talk about. So with that being said, let's go to this week's main event.
You've got mail.
Mailbag.
I always feel the need to apologize for any PTSD that I gave any boomers out there that used to use dial-up internet.
And hey, you know what? Us Gen Xers did too, buddy.
Yeah, that's true. You're just like, Mom, get off the phone. I'm trying to log on to AOL chat, and you're sitting there gossiping.
That's right.
I need to check my messages. So all right, so we're gonna start right off the top with a message from a member of our Facebook group. And again, if you want to join that, printondemancast.com/Facebook is where you can go. If you want to send us questions as well, or just kind of see the scuttlebutt that's happening and the occasional dad joke that gets dropped in there. So the first question is from Jessica. She says, "This is my first go at print on demand, and I have an Etsy shop that I opened April 1st with around 60 listings. The small town that my antique/artisan store is in has a few events that draw in thousands of people. I thought about setting up outside my shop with some of my print on demand items, but not sure on what sizes to stock up on and how many different styles. And we'll put a small booth in my store as well with the event stock. I have done shows before for my antique store, but this is a whole other ball game with inventory. Any advice would be great." So sounds like she, if I'm kind of gleaning correctly, she has a shop, like an antique shop, that she has hard goods, and Jessica sounds like she's venturing into POD as an offshoot of that, maybe offering some of the stuff that she offers in her store on a print-on-demand basis. And she's wondering if she were to stock up for some events that are happening from our Etsy store, how should she go about that? Which is tricky because I mean, it is, the pro of print on demand is you don't have to worry about stock and inventory. So, Travis, if this was you, what would you think? What advice would you give to somebody in this position?
We'll be right back.
Money is all around us, and we think about it more than almost every other aspect of our lives. But how can we make more of it, and what's our drive for building wealth beyond just the numbers in our bank account? Join us on the Make More podcast as our host Matt Heslin brings to you a dynamic lineup of experts in the world of investing, business, health, and beyond. Together, they unpack the secrets to not just surviving, but thriving in today's economy. It's about more than just wealth. It's about crafting life experiences, seizing opportunities, and building a legacy. Subscribe now to the Make More with Matt Heslin podcast and join us every week for new expert insights and inspiration.
Yeah, I guess a little caveat is that we have, like, in the Facebook group, I've already answered Jessica and had a little conversation, or I guess not really conversation, but she responded to my response. And that's for all of these. We, if you post something in the Facebook group, we're going to somebody's going to answer it. If it's not us, it's going to be somebody else. And, you'll at least get some response. So I asked Jessica immediately, like, do you have a heat press? Because I thought, well, if you have a heat press, that can really help because you can buy transfers for the designs that you want to do. And maybe you only do 5 designs, but, and then you can choose which colors you want to do as far as the blank shirts. And you can, instead of ordering, let's say you have 6 sizes and you have 5 designs, that's 30. I'm sorry. No, if you have 5 designs oh gosh, I'm doing math live. This isn't good. But if you do, if you have like 1 or 2 colors and multiple sizes, you have to do it, and you buy them already printed. You have to do that many for each of the designs you want to do. However, if you still say, okay, I still only want to do 2 or 3 colors, and you're going to have all of those sizes, you only have to do that once, and it doesn't matter who buys what because you're pressing the actual design right there. And I think that's kind of the best possibility as far as like not having to order so much stock of your t-shirts. But if that's not an option, I think, the answer she's probably looking for is, which sizes sell the most. I'm going to say for me, and Josiah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, because you did print on demand at a really high volume for that one particular client. And I know you probably have an idea of what would sell the most. For us, when we were doing this, it was mainly black shirts. And I mean, we had other colors. Navy was a close second, sport gray or athletic gray, kind of that light,
the heather kind of.
Yeah, light heather gray. That was a popular color. But black was by far the most. And I would say large and XL was probably number 1, and then probably large. And then it could go either way with the 2XL or the medium. If you were going to do like a small to 3XL, I would order the fewest smalls and the fewest 3XLs, then probably mediums and 2XLs at about the same pace, and then stock up on larges and XLs. What was your experience with like sizes and colors when you were doing all of that for that one client?
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar from your experience. When he would order, I mean, he'd have some events that he was wanting some physical merch at. Always went heavy on black shirts. The majority of his designs were all on black shirts because those sold the best. From a size perspective, it was the same. Large and extra large were always the most prevalent. And 2X would seem to outweigh medium a little bit, but to your point, same kind of a toss up. And so when he would put in orders, originally he would go really heavy on the smalls and mediums and less on the large and extra large. And then he would sell out of the large and extra large and then have a bunch of small and mediums to take with him to the next stop. So we were always, for a while, supplementing the large and extra large sizes until we kind of re-strategized on, hey, maybe we lean harder this time in your new order on large and extra large. The other thing about that too that I encouraged him to do, which he ended up doing at a certain point, was because it was also available on print on demand, having something available, a sign or even a laptop there at the table, where if someone walks up and wants a shirt in a small or a medium and you're sold out, for them to just order it directly from the site that you're selling it on a print on demand version, have it shipped to them is also really nice. Because they can still get the same shirt. They might not walk away from the event, but if they really want the shirt and want it in that size, you can offer to send it to them and have them order it and give them a code for free shipping or something like that, since it was a result of you being sold out in person. But that's another way that a lot of our clients would also supplement too, to help with the sizing issue if they sold out of one size before another. So yeah. And then in episode 86, we actually talked about how to prep for summer markets, because that's something that Make Your Mark Design did for 2 years in a row, right? Was it 2? Yeah. And so, I mean, I was a part of a lot of those conversations of when it came to shirts and hoodie sizes, like what sizes, what colors, what design do we want to sell? And so there's some more strategery that goes, we deep dive into that in episode 86. So that might be of use to you as well, if you're someone like Jessica in the same boat, trying to kind of plan what you're going to take with you to a booth or event or market or something like that.
Yeah, and I think if we would have kept doing it, we would have eventually tried to do like the flat press with specific designs catered to the event that we were doing. Like, if we were going to do a swim meet, we'd have swimming type of things, or if we were going to do this, and then you could also potentially, if you really get crazy, you could do some vinyl. You could bring a vinyl printer and like do names on the back of whatever and kind of customize them. Yeah. We specifically focused on hats, and we had leatherette that we had laser engraved, so it had designs on it, and then it had an adhesive on the back, and people would choose their hat and they would choose their patch, and then we had a heat press, and we would right there in front of them put the patch on the hat, and so they'd walk away with a custom hat. So we also had a lot of other products, but those were, to your point, more static products that had already been printed, and we didn't really have a way to do anything except for bring those whatever size they were. And we had a lot of leftovers, there were a lot of things that didn't sell. And maybe if I had it to do again, we might focus on less products and really kind of highlight the ones that, maybe just a few that were static, but really try to push the custom ones for all the reasons that we've just, talked about here.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is maybe the approach of highlighting the experience of creating a custom product, as opposed to maybe pushing some of the static ones that you already have available on your store. So maybe you're offering something, if you have a heat press or the ability to do things custom on site, people are more prone to engage, or more excited maybe to engage in the process of creating something that's unique and one of one, instead of maybe buying something that they can also find on Etsy. So maybe your product offering is in the same niche and in the same style, but maybe different from what's on your store. And so you're not worried about selling the static stuff. You're just creating custom apparel. That was a pitch that I gave to a pretty prominent podcaster in the pro wrestling space, was printing shirts at these shows they were doing and allowing people that experience. I never heard back. And then I went to one of those shows and saw them doing it in the lobby. So whether it was my advice that they took, if it was me, or if they'd already had the idea, it's hard to say. In my world, I'd like to take credit, but who doesn't want to take credit for a good idea? But it probably wasn't me. So, all right, moving on to the next question. This comes from Instagram. Our Instagram DMs, Dishorted Vintage, or Dishorted. Dishorted sounds like a medical problem, but Dishorted Vintage, I think is a little better. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, you can slide back in our DMs and give us a phonetic spelling. It says, hi, Appreciate all the info you've been posting. If you don't mind, is there a DTF or direct-to-film printer you would recommend at the top of your list? We have a 5-color manual press, but still deciding if we want to make the leap to DTF. The majority of our business is upcycling vintage clothing, but we've recently started to wholesale to boutiques. So, Travis, what would you say if you had to? I mean, first of all, I don't know that there's a lot of stateside DTF printers to make a top 5 list from, but
Right.
if you had to pick, one that you've heard the good reviews. I know there's lots that are just coming out, but if you had to pick one at the top of your list, what is it and why?
Why? So I think there's a couple ways you can go about answering this. And I answered him in the DMs, and what I suggested to him was a DTG DTF combo. If you're not going to do a ton of things, because that gives you more opportunity. You can also do DTG if you want to, so you could get a pre-treater and you could do some DTG things, but you could also do DTF on those. And so we highlighted the F2270 and the F1070 recently, which are Epson's newest kind of, and they call them hybrid printers because they can do both. However, if you have an old 2100, you can do DTF. We've done DTF with the 2100 and our 3070s. Pretty much any DTG printer can do DTF, even if you have to stop it in the middle and rerun it, So, if you don't have the ability to tell it to lay the color first and then the white over it in a mirrored way on the film, you can still kind of get around that by doing a color only mirrored print and then do a regular DTG print mirrored. And as soon as it lays the white, you would stop it and cancel the job. So it wouldn't come back and do the color over the white, because remember, it's backwards. So that's one way you could do it, is just with a regular DTG machine. But anymore, there are some companies out there now. I was just at the Atlantic City show for what's it called again? Impressions Expo.
Impressions, yeah.
And so and back in California, we were there and we were talking a lot to the Cobra Flex guys who have some really nice machines. And so I would recommend a Cobra Flex machine, or in Atlantic City, I was hanging out a lot with the owner of Omniprint, and they have really transitioned from DTG to DTF and have several machines that they're making now that are really great. And they have some kind of Omniprint has a really cool ink and film combo that they're actually selling now. You can get it from them directly. That is like, when you peel it, it's a hot peel. And when you peel it, it's like butter. I actually did a project for a company here in Colorado for like a local project. Local company asked me to provide them some shirts, and I ordered from Omniprint because I had seen what they could do previously. And it's not super expensive, and it's absolutely amazing quality. Colors are popping. And then, man, it's literally like butter when you peel that top sheet off of the print. It's gorgeous. So those would be my two pure DTF machines, and you can get different sizes with shakers, with rollers, all of that from either Cobra Flex or Omniprint.
Nice. So there you go. There is the top 2 recommendations from Travis, and I will agree that there's nothing better than a nice hot peel when it comes to transfers. Cold peels, not a fan. I remember, I don't know what job we were doing when I was working there at Make Your Mark Design, but the transfer, we accidentally ordered a cold peel, so we had to do it and then have a dryer to try and speed up the process to cool it enough to peel, and it was dumb. So hot peel for the win, in my opinion. So moving on to the next question. Susan, also from the Facebook group, says, So I have two questions. So what we'll do is we'll read the first one, answer the first one, read the second one, answer the second one, and say all for the purpose of trying to keep this organized for you, the listener, and not getting lost in both questions. So first question: what is everyone using to help with pricing? I feel like Etsy is a race to the bottom and not helpful for me in a Shopify store. I am working on pricing t-shirts right now, and they have the option to put names and a number on the back through Gelato's personalization platform. So I guess the core of the question is there anything that we can use to help pricing? I don't know if she's asking if there's like a tool that can help check prices, and because I correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Amazon, there's something like that can check like the lowest
How much
buy
you'll
box
make
price and then how
after
much you'll make, and
right.
like all of that kind of stuff. I feel like Etsy's a race to the bottom and not helpful for working in a Shopify store. So she's working on pricing t-shirts, Travis. So I guess with not a whole lot of context to that first question, what is a strategy you would give in pricing on Etsy? Is it a race to the bottom? I know that became the idea behind Amazon after a certain amount of time. It was like, yeah, it is just a race to the bottom. Is Etsy the same way? What are some pricing strategies and advice that you would give to Susan as she's pricing her t-shirts?
Well, it looks like, or it sounds like from her question, she says she feels like Etsy's a race to the bottom and not helpful for me working in a Shopify store. So it sounds like she's doing Shopify, which right off the bat gives you kind of a boost on your actual profits after the sale, because you're not paying Etsy's commission or Amazon's commission or Walmart's commission or whoever. Right. You're getting the everything, you're getting the full purchase price, and then you just have to pay your supplier and of course pay for advertising, and the rest is going to be your net profit. So I would say also it sounds like you're doing custom products or personalized products, which in my opinion, and I think it goes without saying, you can charge a lot more when people are able to personalize their gifts. And so I feel like because you're on a Shopify store, you should be able to charge pretty much whatever you want, because people can't, if once they're there at your store, there's not other sellers that they can compare prices with. It's like what you have, either they feel it's a good value for the designs that they're seeing and the ability to personalize and the different, things that you have provided for them on the Shopify. They have a know, like, and trust factor for you potentially, right. Or they don't, if they feel like, oh, these are too expensive, they're not going to buy. So I feel like there's a tension there for sure. At the same time, so if you are looking at pricing, just in general with brick and mortar retailers, they do a thing called keystone pricing. And so what that means is if they buy it from their wholesaler at, $15, they put it in their store for $30. And it's basically 2x, and they're getting all of their profit and paying all of their expenses from that half, or half of the total sale, which is what Keystone is. So basically you take what you bought it for and you double it. That can work in print on demand. It can also cause you to really sell low too, because for instance, I can get a coffee mug for $8 shipped to my client, but I'm not going to just charge $16 because I can get 20,
right?
So at the same time, maybe you have an expensive supplier like Printful, maybe, and their shirt, their Bella, after shipping and everything, is like $18. And so do you really want to charge 36? You can, if your design's good enough.
Right.
And then the other consideration that you have to make is, is shipping part of the product cost in your mind and in your books? Is it part of the product cost, or is it something that that comes out of your profit? So for instance, let's say your shirt costs $12 and it costs $5 to get it there. That's $17.
Right.
Technically your keystone would be $24. And so are you charging that, or are you going to take that extra $5 and put it as part of your keystone? So now you're up at 34. 17 times 2 is 34. You have to make that decision. And there's nothing wrong with saying you're going to meet in the middle on those two and maybe put part of your shipping as your product cost. But I think from an accounting standpoint, it makes the most sense to bake in as many costs as you can, because come tax time you can bacon. I said bacon. Because come tax time you can deduct all that stuff, but I don't know that it really matters if it's in your COGS or if it's after your COGS and coming out of your gross profit. It doesn't really necessarily matter because it's all going somewhere else, and you're going to report that and only pay tax on your net earnings at the end of the day. I know I've said a whole lot of things and I haven't really answered the question. But I think somewhere between a keystone and maybe a little less, based on your competition, is probably a safe place, especially because you're doing personalized products, and people will always pay more if they can personalize your offerings. It's just, you see it all over the place. Now, there are people that are racing to bottom even with personalization, but you're not them. You want to actually make a profit, and you want to actually make some money on this in this print on demand business. So don't race to the bottom, but don't, you don't have to be at the top of, you don't have to charge what Supreme charges, or some of those really high end clothing companies. It's also going to depend. I know I keep talking, I'm sorry. And it also depends on like what blank you're using. Are you using a Bella? Are you using a Gildan 5000 that, is really stiff and it feels cheap, and, people may or may not like that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And, but I will say at the end of the day, you don't have to necessarily price exactly what your cheapest competitor is pricing at. Don't fall into that trap. That is the race to the bottom in and of itself. So don't be the cheapest. Don't be the most expensive. Make a nice, healthy margin for yourself. That's what I'll say about that.
Succinct. So the second part of her question, which gives probably a little bit more clarity or maybe some context. She says, speaking of, and she's referencing Gelato's personalization platform. These are football shirts. The personalization is supposed to let people put their own names on the shirts and pick a number. Is there a liability issue if people are putting players' names and numbers on the back? Because the personalization is automated, I wouldn't be able to catch this before they get printed unless I make them all manual orders. Well,
I think it kind of depends, really. When you say they're football shirts, I mean, do you have the Kansas City Chiefs logo on it? Because then you have an issue regardless what name they put on it. If you're using actual teams and their logos on the shirts, then yes, absolutely. If it's, more of a tip of the hat to that particular, city or fan base, then again, I think you can have plausible deniability that you allowed people to put whatever they wanted, and this customer decided to put, Kelsey or Mahomes or, Swift on that shirt. And so I think you might be able to get out of it. And the other thing is that you're probably not worth the time for like the NFL, for instance, to come after you. And unless you really, really, really were blowing up and got, some traction behind you. So you're probably safe. At the same time, it is kind of a gray area. And, I could probably go either way on this one. What say you, Josiah?
Yeah, again, I think we've talked a lot about these like vague gray areas when it comes to copyright and what is and is not permissible or allowed or a good idea. Travis's point if you are burying the lead and you didn't say that you also have, the Denver Nuggets logo on the front. I know it's a football shirt, but, same thing goes if it's a Broncos logo on the front. First of all, why? Second of all, that's going to be the main problem is if there's a Broncos actual logo. Now, Travis, you mentioned a tip of the cap, and some of your projects that you've done in the past that use and pull and kind of tip the cap to some professional football players and incorporate some color schemes. That is different, I think. And to your point, if there is an issue with using players' last names, you would have to make a lot of sales for anyone to care. And I always used to think of it, right or wrong, for me, is if I were to get a cease and desist from said entity, that means that I probably made enough noise / money to be like, you're right, I'm done. You just kind of walk away and count your money, all the way home. So, but it can be a little tricky, especially if you're giving people the ability to put what they want on the shirt. Are they uploading names and numbers only? Is there images they can upload? Because then that's dangerous, because then they don't care about your shop, and if it gets shut down for infringement or copyright infringement, anything like that. So it is one of those gray areas where if it's just last names and numbers, you could be okay. If there's anything of actual intellectual property that's being incorporated on the shirt itself, I would encourage you to stop and kind of rethink what the design and what you're offering, just to protect yourself in the long run. So,
and I want to say one other thing. I think what we've been talking about is specifically for Shopify. If you're selling on Etsy, I think, or Amazon or any of the other platforms, if it's not your own platform, don't do this. Don't do this on Etsy, because they are going to be a lot more finicky, if you will. There's just a lot more eyes potentially on it. And so there's just a lot more potential for bad things to happen on those platforms than say a Shopify site that, you're just advertising on Instagram and Facebook. It's a different kind of a different level of risk, I think. And you don't want your entire Etsy store to get shut down because somebody decided to put Mahomes on the back, and that particular day, Mahomes' legal team was on Etsy and saw it or something. You know what I mean? So for channels, I think there's a higher level of risk than if it's your own store. So just wanted to put that caveat before we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Etsy, take it from personal experience. From my wife, don't put that kind of stuff on Etsy, because it don't matter if you're just a tip of the cap or not. They're not fans. Okay, so last question in this week's mailbag segment comes from Matthew, who's also part of the Facebook group over there at printondemancast.com/Facebook. He says, do I need a separate Shopify store for each niche, or can I build out a site that has multiple niches, or is that the plural? Niches?
Sure.
As collections.
Okay. Niches.
Or do I direct people to a collection instead of my homepage? So I guess this is one of those things where it's like, I don't know that there's necessarily a wrong answer. Maybe kind of the all things are permissible, not all things are beneficial category of design here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that, when you look at the novelty sites out there, you do have the idea that there are collections and sub niches that they break it down into, whether it's gaming, movies, So if you're just doing kind of a catch-all novelty t-shirt site that's your business, and you want to have categories so people can delve further into, like niches, I've seen that done. If you are going for a specific niche, let's say hunting and fishing is your thing, and you're creating shirts around that whole subculture, I don't know necessarily that it would make sense to also have a pickleball section if you're
Right.
also have pickleball
Yeah.
interests. I think that
Mhm.
gets confusing in the end user. And the more you do that, I don't know that necessarily you'll have luck dialing in. Well, let me say this: if you do that, you might as well just do a novelty T-shirt site and
Mm.
not say that you're a focused, niched line of anything, and just kind of call a spade, and that's what you're doing. If you're not
Right.
going to be specific to a particular niche and audience,
Yeah.
then you might as well be a novelty shirt site, which presents a whole different category or a whole different set of challenges when you're trying to then break through the noise of all
Right.
of the other dozens and dozens of novelty T-shirt sites. I've told this story before. That, my father-in-law, towards the end of What For Apparel, wanted to start a novelty T-shirt site just because we had assets that were collecting, digital dust, and we weren't really using all of them. So his thought was just to put them on a novelty T-shirt site. And my biggest pushback was like, why? Like, what makes this any different from the amount of ad spend you're gonna have to do in Google, Facebook, Instagram to break through the noise, to bring people in? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna get way too confusing. And so that's my only
Right.
caution is it takes a lot to break through the noise if you're just going to be another shirt store that's selling novelty tees,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to picking a niche and targeting that particular subset of audience to come to your
Right.
site might be a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
yes, it might look like you have multiple Shopify stores dedicated to each niche, if that's what you're wanting to do, is keep them separate or put it all in the
Mm-hmm.
same pot and see what happens.
Yeah, my thought on this whole thing is, we talked a little bit about it with kind of, somebody who's got, and you just said it too, like they have a fishing, hunting, whatever, and then all of a sudden they have a crypto, something happens in the crypto world and they want to hop on the trend and they just put a crypto shirt up. It's like on a hunting shirt, what? That doesn't make any sense. Or they're trying to trend set, or not trend set, but like trend follow and putting things up for different trends. I don't think that's the best strategy with Facebook anyway, because it just makes your marketing so difficult. If you're going to do Facebook, or I'm sorry, if you're going to do Shopify, you're going to probably be doing Instagram and Facebook ads. And the beauty about those ads is that Facebook and Instagram learn over time who your target customer is. But if you're changing your target customer all the time, Facebook's not going to figure that out, and so, and then you're trying to collect emails so you can remarket to them for free, but who knows what they bought? I mean, there's so many different products and different niches. It's not the same type of person. So your marketing is going to be much less effective when you do that. The other thing I'll say towards the end, you said, do I direct people to a collection instead of my homepage? And I would say, don't direct people to a collection or your homepage. If you're going to advertise on Facebook, direct them to a product page. Always direct to a product page. If they want to explore and look at the other products that you have on your site, that's fine. You want to make the least amount of friction for that sale to happen. So the best way to do that is put them on the page that you have just advertised to them. And that's why they clicked. Don't make them go find that product again, because they won't do it. They'll bounce and they're gone and you'll lose the sale. But if they're right there, they can choose their color and their size and add to cart. You have a much better opportunity to get the sale. So yes, I would say, to exactly what you said, Josiah, niche your Shopify store down, and you can do collections, but make sure that all of the people that would come to your store are the same type of people.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a guy who just hunts and there's a guy who just fishes, but there's a lot more of them that do both, most likely, and so those can be different collections, but they're generally the same type of person that may be interested in what you have to offer on your Shopify store. Don't go starting, don't do wrestling tees and crypto tees and cat tees and all this other stuff, because it's just going to, it's going to cost you a lot more to market to them. And B, your marketing is going to be a lot less effective. I guess that's A
Yeah.
and B kind of wrapped up in one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that wraps up the mailbag segment. It has been fun to answer questions and to, like I said, give you guys the keys to kind of determine, what we talk about on the show. So we can do this again. And it's really predicated on your guys' interaction with us on Instagram, Facebook, responding to the VIP emails that you can subscribe to at printondemandcast.com/VIP. But we would love to do more of these episodes and answer your questions more, for lack of a better term, in real time. But for now, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, if you want to stay in the know and get an additional dose of Print on Demand Cast knowledge, again, printondemandcast.com/VIP is where you can go to sign up for the weekly newsletter. We will not harass you. We will not spam you. We will not bother you or ask for your social security. It's not a scam. Basically what I'm saying, we're not going to spam you or scam you. It's just additional information. And in exchange for your email, we will give you an annual design calendar. Spoiler alert, folks. Q4 is just around the corner. Okay. We're in Q2 right now. Q3 is coming, and Q4 will be here before you know it. And so the design calendar helps you stay abreast of all of the things you should be designing for, planning for, selling for, marketing for, and is a great tool to use. And if you've given us your email and you have yet to receive your annual design calendar, you can respond to one of those emails and say, hey, what's good? Give me my calendar. You can reach out to us on Facebook or on Instagram, but just say, hey, I signed up and I didn't receive my calendar. Send us your email and we can rectify that mistake as soon as possible. So, Travis, anything else before we wrap this one completely up and put a bow on it?
I don't think so. Just appreciate you guys asking questions in the Facebook group and, in all of the places, and keep doing it. We'll keep trying to give you the best advice that we can.
Yes, absolutely. So till next time, for Travis, I'm Josiah. We'll see you right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.
In a world where businesses everywhere are trying to make print-on-demand sales, one podcast goes above and beyond every week to bring the most POD-specific information there is, all to help save the day, every day. Don't succumb to the enemies of your print-on-demand business. Sign up today for the Print on Demand Cast VIP email at printondemandcast.com/VIP. This time, it's for real.